I look back at that moment in that jacuzzi, and I just had that talk, that moment, and I feel so lucky that I escaped, because none of those other people succeeded or did anything in life, and to get that second chance. And that's why I'm all about second and third and fourth and fifth chances, until that you have to not give up on a person when they are at their lowest points.
I'm a former Detroit police officer and rode with the 1%er motorcycle club. During that time, I was involved in a lot of altercations. I had a gun shoved in my face. The trigger was pulled, and I got a plate under my left eye. I'm Manny Vitale, and this is my story. Hey everybody, how you doing? I'm Manny Vitale, host of My Fight, Our War, and we're back in our second home in Connecticut. And I tell you, as always, we have a great group of people here that are family, and today's no different. And I just want to give a big shout out to my brother, Coach Tony Morrissey, along with the Brian Cody Brothers and Sisters Foundation, for all they do. Incredible organization, incredible family. And through them, the extended family that I've been blessed to meet is incredible. And that's the case here with my guest, Dave Stevens, who his stories from start to finish and everything in between is nothing but a blessing and a miracle. So, Dave, thank you for
Thanks, Manny.
Thank you for making it here with our Google Maps and everything.
Yeah.
But yeah. So, but it was.
Thanks, Coach.
Thank you, Coach. But definitely appreciate you taking time out of your. I know we talk about busy schedules. And we were just talking about 50 flights in a year, last year.
Yeah.
And you're going to crush that this year.
I've already been to the Super Bowl. I've been to California twice, Florida twice, heading to Minnesota next week, New Jersey, everywhere. But, at age 59, I'm still living the dream. I'm doing it. I love traveling alone, especially, being in a wheelchair and doing the things that I have to do, that's quite a challenge. But amen to being able to do the things that I do. Just still living that dream as a kid, that I had. There were two things I wanted to do as a kid. I wanted to play professional baseball, and I wanted to work in network television. And to tell a kid with no legs that those dreams were accomplishable was kind of crazy. But here I am. Here I am.
Oh my God! You know what? It was kind of interesting. We were talking out there, and for me, I don't really like to get a whole lot on the guests because I like that shock and awe. Like when I'm talking to someone, it's like, what? Just like with our viewers. But we didn't have half as much, except for Coach just can't stop talking about you. And now after talking to you for this much, I know why. But let's start from the beginning, man. We always start from like the childhood growing up. And obviously from yours from the get-go was obviously different, man. So why don't you just start from there?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a motivational speaker, so I talk about this a lot. But, first off, born without legs, strike one. Strike two, my mother was forced by her parents to give me up for adoption because they were well off. And in those days, you hid those babies if you were rich and didn't want anyone to know. So my mother allegedly didn't even see me. They put a sheet up, took me away. She didn't know I was born without legs until days after. But I was really lucky that a loving couple picked me up that had foster kids throughout in Arizona. And he was a World War II veteran that was a truck driver and just a housewife. And they were a lot older, but they loved me, and I was a part of foster kids, and they decided to keep me. And I'm so lucky because they instilled in me that this is my normal, that I'm not disabled, that I should go out and try to do those things. And it's okay to fail and fall down, or, I'm on my ass, so I don't fall down very far. I'm like a weeble. I wobble, but I get back up. That's an old reference, but I have always, I've always, since I was little, thought I'm just like everyone else. I'm that little chihuahua that thinks they're a Saint Bernard. And so they instilled in me that I could do that. And so I didn't realize, until later in life that I was different or get stared at or looked at or things like that, because this is the only way I know. This is my normal.
Yeah, well, actually, because that is, you're Dave. You're Dave Stevens. You're Dave Stevens if you have legs.
But I'm lucky because in those times, you're talking in the 60s, they
Oh,
would still
God.
institutionalize people with disabilities, mental disabilities. There were all these horrible prisons that Geraldo Rivera, exposed and stuff. And so I'm very lucky. And then, there were no special Olympics or special things. And so I decided at an early age that I liked sports and I'm going to go and try to play sports. And again, my parents said, go do it. And everybody else said, you can't do that. No one's ever done this before. But I just little by little working out, with a buddy in the backyard with a tennis ball and a baseball glove or a Nerf football and trying to figure out how do you catch a baseball without legs? How do you hit a baseball without legs? How do you do all these things? And, it was my friends and stuff that it just kind of became normal. And I was accepted as just Dave.
Man, I tell you, you bring up a great point too, as far as the time. I mean, if this were you now, man, you would have had prosthetics as an infant. I mean, nowadays with the technology, but you're so right, man. Thinking back then, like you said, and this is the kind of part, kind of just got to me a little bit when you said institutionalized. Now, obviously, there's people with medical issues, emotional issues that
Right.
need to be like not locked away, secured, supervised. But like you just said, they look at someone without legs or something like that in the same manner. I'm sorry. How old were you with your foster parents when they?
They took me right from the hospital.
Oh my!
So,
I mean, that was
yeah.
so. That's all you've known. God
That's
bless
it.
them. And another thing is, we know how freaking evil kids can be, you little bastards. And here you just said they were the ones, that were right there in the backyard with you.
Yeah, and it was great. The only tough, I mean, my life has been a challenge from day one. And those challenges started even more in the mid 70s because my dad, as a World War II veteran, he'd been blown up, had a mortar blow up between his legs, and couldn't drive a truck anymore, lost his job, and we were poor, so we moved around. I want to say 12 times. I went to 5 different schools. And just when you establish that you're okay, boom. And again, I didn't know the finances. I didn't know why. I didn't know we were poor. I just know I had made friends at this school. And then I moved to this school. And then I moved to this school. And then when it became time for high school, I moved away from all those friends in Phoenix to a town called Wickenburg, where I had nobody. And when you're a teenager starting over at that level, that's when it really it challenged me, because I'm like, all right, now what am I going to do to, fit in and do these kind of things? And that's when I said, screw it. I'm going to play football. I'm going to wrestle. I'm going to play baseball at this level, and I'm going to succeed at it. And I think moving to a small town helped me, because those coaches probably at a bigger school might have said, no, we can't deal with this. But I had a baseball coach who stuck me in right field. Who sticks a legless guy in right field? But he knew something. I had a coach that said I'd be a great wrestler, and I had a coach, that wrestling coach, that said I'd be good at football. So I started playing nose tackle in football. I was 98 pounds in wrestling, and I was a right fielder on the starting baseball team in varsity as a freshman. So it was like, and then this little legend of this legless guy started building all around the state of Arizona. Because again, you're talking 1981, 82, before internet, and all you had was television. ABC comes to town my sophomore year, which was a TV show called That's Incredible.
Yep.
The town goes nuts. They have a parade. They go crazy because, again, this is small little hick cowboy town. And suddenly I'm on, in Hollywood on TV before 40 million people. And I'm standing in a green room. And this is such a funny story. I'm standing in the green room on my artificial legs, because for you listeners and viewers, I didn't play sports on anything other than my arms. The video's out there. You can Google me. It's on YouTube. Luckily, there's too much video of Dave, but I'm standing in the green room on my artificial legs in my leisure suit that we borrowed because we were poor and I didn't own a suit. And this little 4-year-old kid is chipping golf balls off my fake legs. And I'm nervous enough because in those days there were 3 networks. There was ABC, CBS, and NBC, and you watched those shows. So 40 million people were going to see this pimply kid with glasses. I'm nervous. This little kid is just hitting balls, bouncing off my legs, just ricocheting. And I look over at the dad. I'm like, can you stop your little brat, And the dad kind of looks at me, and he looks at the kid, and he goes, Tiger, Stop doing that.
Tiger?
It was freaking Tiger Woods, a 4-year-old Tiger Woods, and you can Google the That's Incredible episode. It was Incredible Kids, and we were brought in to tell our stories, and Tiger Woods was chipping golf balls off my legs.
Oh my God.
Despite the bad, there's so much fun and good that I have lived. And no offense, because I can say this word, but I've lived a Forrest Gump life. I've pinch hit for Darryl Strawberry. I've played in the same outfield with Barry Bonds at Olympic tryout. I've done all these things again before the internet, or we wouldn't be sitting here. We'd be sitting here talking about my movie or something in a Hollywood thing. Like I'd have a Netflix series. Like if I was doing it in this day and age with all of the social media, like I would be this thing. And I don't want that. I'm saying I was happy I did it in my era, which probably allowed me opportunities to play professional baseball, to try out for the Dallas Cowboys, because now you probably would not get those opportunities because it's a whole different world.
Man, and there's a lot to take in, man. And now you know why I love that shock and awe.
Yeah.
When I'm thinking, I can honestly say I was not expected to hear Tiger. Will you stop chipping golf balls off his leg? And Tiger Woods. And from that, I mean, and that's what I mean when I hate the word disabilities, because these are all abilities that you've been given because of the situation. So, I mean, we always like to take a negative into positive, but this isn't a negative, man, because that's all you've known. And you've turned your positive into even more of a positive by. And what I really love too is, like you said about the coaches, because you're so damn spot on. If a bigger college, first of all, right field, wrestling, and nose tackle.
Yeah.
Dave, yeah.
Genius, right?
Yeah.
But it turns out again, it was weird. Then I would use it to my advantage, because in football, the center and the center and the tackle or the guard were so freaked out about me that they would end up double teaming me and falling on top of me, which then would free up the linebacker to fill the hole, which you can't run into, Same thing in wrestling. I knew what to do against you leggies, but you guys didn't know what to do against me. And so inevitably, I'm 98 pounds, but I'm the biggest upper body 98 pound you've ever seen, probably more like a 155 or something. And once I figured out what to do, I breezed through it. It took me to state championships. It took me, suddenly beating a future 4-time Olympian, all those kind of things that, again, wrestling was probably my best sport. I dabbled in it in college, but the reality was, no, there was no more advantage at that level. And then in baseball, yes, I had a low strike zone. I was a challenge for pitchers, but I also hit over 300 in my career. I set state record for walks. And again, didn't fail at tryouts with the Reds and the Twins and the Olympic, baseball team. And again, that great Barry Bonds story for maybe later in the show, if you ever want to address that.
We're going to address it. We're addressing it.
But I'm so lucky because of the setbacks in life, and I know that's what we want to talk about a little bit today.
Yes.
It wasn't all glamorous, because when I got the scholarship to go play at Augsburg in Minnesota, it was a part of dream come true. I got a TV job in Minnesota, and I got a college football scholarship in Minnesota.
Exactly what you wanted.
Here I am, this 18-year-old kid, and my mom is dying of cancer, but they hid it from me.
Oh.
And I go to see her at the hospital, which turned out was a hospice. I didn't realize that. Kissed her goodbye, got in the car, drove to Minnesota, and about 4 hours in, I pull over in New Mexico. I just had a weird feeling. And again, I was adopted. There's no blood lineage here. I pull into Albuquerque, felt something weird, and I called my dad and I'm like, "Hey, Dad, how's things going? How's Mom?" And he's quiet, and he's like, "She's gone." And I'm like, "What?" "Yeah, she died." So the doctor said my mom waited to see her baby leave home, because if she'd have died before I left, chances are I wouldn't have gone. So I continued to Minnesota, went to college for 3 or 4 months, hated classes, my dad was miserable. I missed my friends, because again, going from Cowboy Hicksville to St. Paul, Minneapolis is a huge leap.
Oh, man.
So around November, dropped out of college, drove back to Arizona, just kind of lived. I got in with the wrong crowd, went to a broadcasting school, dropped out of that, and then started doing coke. And I, was doing coke. Just I remember us getting 8 balls, and then my friends that I worked with at it was like a Lowe's home center kind of thing. I was running customer service, and these guys would take packages and do bogus returns, take the money and buy cocaine, and then we would party on the weekends. And I remember, living that life and just doing coke all the time and drinking and partying. And again, how old was I? This was in 1986. I'm 20 years old. And so one time I'd probably done almost half of an 8 ball, which is a lot of cocaine. And I was holding my breath in a jacuzzi in my apartment complex, holding my breath underwater for up to 2 minutes at a time, maybe even more. I wasn't trying to kill myself. I was just doing this. And I remember looking up, popping out of the water, looking up in the sky, because my father had died during that time. He had gotten cancer, but took care of my mom and didn't tell the doctors. So I lost the two most important people in my life within a year and a half. And here I am in this jacuzzi. I pop up out of the water. I look up in the sky, and there was this like movie epiphany moment where I looked up and I'm like, if my parents are up there looking down, they're disappointed. If my coaches could see me, they're disappointed. Everybody that believed in me and thought I was this magical superhuman and hero guy, look at me now. And so I got out of that tub the next day. I called Augsburg. I said, could I get my scholarship back if I come back? They decided, yeah. I called my TV station. I said, could I get my job if I come back? And I got a one-way ticket with just a suitcase and went back to Minnesota. And the rest is history. That I haven't done cocaine since January of 1987. And so I understand those struggles. Not everybody like myself can overcome those demons, because we hear people, well, you've got to want to quit. You've got to want to do it. And there's so much more to that. If you don't have a support group to help you, which I didn't, I'm very lucky, but I've been to those lows. I know what Darryl Strawberry went through when we became teammates and he was just ostracized from baseball. I know what the struggles that these veterans go through when they come back from war with PTSD, losing people that were their brothers, or losing a limb or an arm, getting hooked on opiates, not being able to deal or refit into society. So, this is not the glamorous part of my life I talk about a lot, but it's very important because it's who I am. It's who I became. And it really is a success story. And if people can see my story, and that's why I don't mind sharing it with you, to go seek help, to go find somebody to confide in, just to talk to. It doesn't have to be a therapist. It could just be a friend, a relative, somebody you haven't talked to in high school for 20 years. I don't know. But you have to go to get help. Like I said, I'm very lucky because it was just going to get worse. And I don't know if it would have been harder, but I was partying. It was just nothing. And so I look back at that moment in that jacuzzi, and I just, had that talk, that moment. And I feel so lucky that I escaped, because none of those other people succeeded or did anything in life. And to get that second chance. And that's why I'm all about second and third and fourth and fifth chances, until that you have to not give up on a person when they are at their lowest points.
Oh my God, that is so true, because doing this and the people that I've been able to talk to and share stories with, not only them, but their families and friends. And, we burn bridges, man, when we do these things. It's say terrible things, do terrible things during active addiction. And it's like, well, I gave him a chance. We'll give him another one. How many chances have you had in life? Well, I wasn't doing drugs. Okay, but did you fail in something else? I mean, it's all about that second chance. Well, I think that's probably where it comes from. Well, we're going to give you another chance, which means only one. No, we get many other chances. And you are so right, too, about these other issues.
I got to make a plug here while we're talking about
Definitely.
second chances.
Yes.
If again, you're not conceiving what we're talking about, what I did, there's a Netflix movie. If you have Netflix, or go borrow somebody's code, it's called The Saint of Second Chances. And it's about Mike Veck, who was the owner of the St. Paul Saints, who gave these second chances. He's the one that signed me to a minor league baseball contract. He's the one that signed Darryl Strawberry to a minor league contract to get back into baseball. And it talks about Darryl's overcoming his addictions, meeting Dave Stevens, falling back in love with baseball, and getting to the New York Yankees and playing in a World Series and overcoming his demons. And now he's a successful minister, traveling around the country and talking about overcoming his life and turning to God. And it's been great to see him do that. So it's called The Saint of Second Chances, one of the best baseball documentaries. It's a family event. If you don't love baseball, you don't even have to watch it, but it's got some great stuff in there. Even without my story and Darryl Strawberry, you'll cry, you'll be moved. It's a great movie, but it is about second chances. And that's why I'm so proud to be associated with that. And to your point, Manny, is like, you have to give those people more opportunities, because it's better to try and fail than to sit around and wish, oh, I should have done this, I should have helped him, I should have done that. So, if we can continue to help our brothers and sisters out there, especially with those PTSD or those opiate addictions or drug addictions or things like that, I mean, we can win these battles. We can win these struggles. We can save more kids, more youth that become addicted to these, things that we don't know. We don't know what's in fentanyl. We don't know how they're getting fentanyl in it. And that is our newest, biggest battle.
Exactly. I tell people too. It's as simple as this. Addiction is a word. Addiction is not a death sentence. You're here. I'm here. Unfortunately, a lot of our families and friends and loved ones aren't here. That's why I do this, to keep their names and stories alive. But I had a very close person. He's my brother, not blood, but he's my brother. I saw all of his kids being born and growing up, and the youngest son passed from heroin. And he battled and battled. And Rick was on my show, and he said, parting shot was, if there's anything I can get through to somebody who is a spouse or a family member of someone who is in active addiction, is never give up on them. No matter what, I've done everything I can do. Start over again. Start over again, because the minute you stop, and then if something does happen, you're going to live with that the rest of your life, that regret. And that's just something that is unbearable. And what the life of addiction is hell. The life of thinking that I could have done something and my friend's no longer here is even worse, I would imagine. But thank you for plugging that. And segue into Darryl Strawberry about you being part of his comeback.
Yeah, I was blown away when I saw the movie. I didn't realize how much of an impact I made in his life. And
how did that even start with you guys?
It was 1996. I had just been signed to the Saints. They had another former Detroit Tiger pitcher, Jack Morris, was on he was trying to make his comeback, and he was doing real well. We had another former major leaguer on the team, and Darryl Strawberry and myself. And Darryl had just been kicked out of baseball by all the teams. He was basically banished because he had, had violence, in his life against his ex-wife or something. Yep. Then there were drugs, then there were failed drug tests and all that. He had one more chance that was given to him in St. Paul. So he signed. So there was media there, national media, to cover Darryl Strawberry signing with the St. Paul Saints, this independent league of ragtag former major leaguers that are all washed up and have no chance, and da-da-da. Here Mike Veck is giving him one last shot. So I got my shot. I had signed to go be a catcher. So I'm coming out of the dugout, and I'm out there to work out. And again, I'm serious. I had no clue. And all of a sudden, Darryl Strawberry walks out. But all cameras had gone from Darryl Strawberry to this legless baseball player.
Catcher.
Yeah. And so suddenly everybody, all the cameras are on me, and they're like, what the hell's going on here? And another freak show and all these kind of things. But yet they started seeing I could play baseball. And they started doing stories on me, and they started leaving Darryl alone. And Darryl and I started having lunch together because all the guys on the Saints wanted to go out and drink and party. And I was 30 years old, and Darryl was 33, 34 years old. He wasn't much older. And we would sit in the restaurants and sip tea and talk about life and his setbacks and my setbacks. And because I had only been sober, a few years since 87, and we were in, 96. So it still was fresh to know that experience. And we just bonded. And again, it was one of those things where my motto is, obviously, when people see me, they judge that book by its cover. I don't judge a book by its cover. I met Darryl that day, first day, shook his hands, and I took him on those merits. I didn't take him on newspaper articles or TV programs or whatever. And then we just started playing baseball together. And there's, again, you can go on YouTube and see great video of him and I playing catch in the outfield and goofing around together. They had us mic'd up. ESPN did a big feature on Dave and Darryl, and it's really a cute story. And we just kind of bonded for the 3 weeks I was playing, and Darryl started hitting home run after home run after home run, and suddenly he's got 16 home runs in about 10 games, and he gets a call from the Yankees to come to the major leagues right from St. Paul. And so Straw goes to the Yankees, wins a World Series, wins another World Series, gets cancer, goes through some other personal struggles in his life, goes to jail, comes out, should have died. He's living and he's become a minister. But the best story of all was in Madison, Wisconsin. Darryl Strawberry had hit 3 home runs in a game, right? Boom, boom, boom. I wasn't supposed to play. I'd already started a couple games and played. I went along for the bus ride to Madison, Wisconsin, sitting on the bench. We're playing, I'm warming up, we're doing the whole thing, but I knew I wasn't going to get to play. So boom, home run number 1, boom, home run number 2, boom, home run number 3. About the 7th inning, I hear the PA system, and this is exactly how it happened. Now batting for the St. Paul Saints, number 32, Dave Stevens. And I'm like, what? And I look around.
You heard from the PA,
I heard
not
from
your
the
coach?
PA system. No. And I'm like, what? And I'm like, Darryl, you have a chance to hit a 4th home run today. And he goes, Dave, you earned this. And so the crowd is expecting Darryl Strawberry to come hit a 4th home run. So they're all kind of disappointed. And then I come waltzing out there, this legless dude with my bat, like they just weren't expecting it. And I come up there, foul off a couple pitches. This dude was throwing 90 something. Like it was, I appreciated he was throwing me heat, right? Took a called 3rd strike, probably just above my eyes, which
the crowd go nuts.
My strike zone is tough from waist to shoulder. So I love to hit at my eyes, but I knew it was a ball, and I'm like, I'm going to walk. And the ump went, and the crowd booed him. And I think the opposing team was disappointed in it. Like the pitcher kind of realized he lucked out. But yeah, I pinch hit for Darryl Strawberry and took a called 3rd strike. So, and to this
I
day.
just love now batting.
Oh yeah. It was
you
like,
sitting there.
For you Simpson fans, there's an old Simpson episode where, Mr. Burns hires all these ringers, Roger Clemens, Darryl Strawberry, to play in a softball game.
Yes.
And Darryl's drinking the juice and they're all, getting steroided and bigged up and all that kind of stuff. And then I think it was Ken Griffey Jr. had 9 home runs in the game, and all but you hear now batting for Ken Griffey Jr., Homer Simpson. Like it was that
they did the same
moment. It was like, why is this legless dude hitting for this superstar? So it really is. It's such a surreal moment. Obviously, I wish I had succeeded, but to have him do that. So then, fast forwarding to that movie, the movie talks about. Darryl says, if it wasn't for Dave, he made me fall in love with baseball again. He made me realize I had those skills, and if Dave could come and play baseball, I'm getting choked up here. If Dave could come and play baseball and overcome what he did, what's my excuse? And to know that as a human, you have an impact on a life like that, like a guy who had everything and threw it away, and he got that 2nd, 3rd, 4th chance, and he's made the most of it. So, and then I see that on a big screen, and you're like, oh, I had no idea. And I tear up watching it. I tear up talking about it because you don't realize. So that's why I do what I do now with sports camps. We didn't get to that, but putting on baseball camps for disabled kids, doing all those things around the country and stuff. It's hopefully there'll be another Dave Stevens or a Jim Abbott or a Shaquem Griffin or all these people that have Pete Gray overcome those disabilities to play sports. And I've just been a small historic part of it that it'd make a hell of a movie, I know.
Oh my God. You know what? I can see it still coming, but everything that you said, your words and what you do. And I've been doing this for a year. I would have to stand up and maybe talk to a couple people to do like an I'd be so nervous. I'd hyperventilate, palms sweating. I'm like, I ain't talking to anybody. Now I do live shows every Monday. I can't wait. I see the cameras. I have a ball and people coming on and doing these shows, telling their stories. And I had this one girl say, you know what? I saw your last guest and their story, man. Jail, the things they did, the heroin, the fights, the loss, the violence. My story's nothing like that. You know, I don't think I want to come on because mine won't really touch home and matter. I'm like, don't you ever say that. Your words matter. Our words matter. You're going to touch somebody. If you touch one, and it sounds so cliche, you touched one, that one life, who then can snowball, maybe touch 2 to 5 to 10. And yours, good God, I don't know where to even keep going. There's so much. I mean, you're definitely going to be keep coming back on. But what did you say about Barry?
Oh, well, again, it goes back to that Forrest Gump life. So I got invited to the 1983 Olympic baseball tryout regionals in Arizona. So I was good enough in high school as a senior to get invited to the amateurs. You know, it wasn't pros that were going to the Olympics.
And again, this isn't Special Olympics. You know,
No,
this was
it's
not.
regular baseball.
Yeah.
So I get the call. I drive. I had my car as a senior. I drove to the tryout at Arizona State University, and I'm there. And the names that are there are Barry Bonds, Odabe McDowell, Mark McGuire, Don Wakamatsu, Doug Henry, Kendall Carter. There were all these future names that were going to play professional baseball, and me. And so
And Dave.
I'm running through the drills, and again, everybody's like, there's a legless dude running around here in the outfield, you know, but they stuck me in right field, and Odabe McDowell was in center field, and he ended up being a future major leaguer also as well. He did make the Olympic team, and he had a great career for Atlanta. And then Barry Bonds was in left field, right? And again, I'm this 18-year-old high school kid with a couple of, you know, college baseball players at the time. They were Arizona State University. And there were it was during live batting practice. There were back-to-back balls that were hit to me. And again, I'm in right field. So I'm running my ass off, and this is when I can fly on my arms. I make back-to-back catches, diving catches, poof, make one, next batter, first pitch to my left, diving catch, poof, I make these two amazing catches. Odabe's like, man, you're a hot dog. You're worse than my teammate over in right. And I'm like, I'm laughing, right? So then they go, we got to go to another field for our hitting part of the game. So Odabe's like, hey, man, would you like a piggyback ride? Because in those days, people would throw me on their back around their neck and carry me. It would ease up on my arms. And I'm like, oh, that's a great idea. Thanks. So I get on Odabe's back, and we're walking, and Barry's like trailing. And this is the Barry Bonds that would grow up to be the home run king. And he's like, why are you wasting your time carrying him? He's not going to make the team. Just put him down, man. Don't waste your energy. He's not a part of this. He's just a gimmick, man. Don't waste your time. And I start shaking because I know they're teammates, and I don't want to come between teammates. So I whisper in Odabe's ear. I'm like, hey, just put me down, man. Just put me down. He's like, he kind of pauses and let Barry keep walking. And he goes, that's just Barry being Barry, man. He's an ass. You're okay, man. Come on. And we just kept going. And so years later, he's not such a nice guy. You know, you're around those people that you could just tell he felt entitled. He felt this, and he ruined a kind of a cool moment by just, I don't know.
Being real.
But the cool part was, out of the 29 outfielders in the ratings, I finished 13th.
Out of 29.
Out of 29 dudes with legs. 28 of them had legs, So that meant a lot to me. That means I'm better than, I didn't make the team, obviously, and didn't go, but to know that not by charity that I finished higher, my time to first wasn't the fastest, so that dropped me down. I could run, I think I could get to first in 9 when you're expected to get between 5 and 6 seconds to first base, again, running on your arms at that time. So, but yeah, it's just funny. There's these stories that I could fill books with of when we played in Ireland and Australia and American football. And I also held for extra points in college football. So I was the guy that would hold for the kickers.
Sure.
And we were in New Zealand or Australia. We were playing the Australian national team, which is a bunch of guys that couldn't play rugby anymore. And we're killing them, 58-0. And we scored again. I come out to hold, bad botched snap, dream of my lifetime. I grab the ball and I just kind of, like a hand grenade, just kind of fire it over everybody, all these offensive and defensive linemen, fire it over. Somehow my tight end catches it, goes in for the score. And I look over at the Australian coach, and he took his clipboard and just fired it into the ground. And the ground was so wet, it just stuck straight into the ground. Because that's it. The epitome of failure is when a legless dude completes a 2-point conversion pass in football against you. So, that's the thing. I've
those
lived
memories.
this dream, and it wasn't, and you see the stories of, oh, we let a special needs kid run for a touchdown, or we stopped the basketball game and let one kid, do whatever. I always wanted to be that athlete that people would go home and be just blown away by what I did and realize that we all had gifts.
It was based on raw talent. There, like I said, there is so damn much here. Okay, we got to jump into the Dallas Cowboys. I mean, so we went from being born with no legs to Tiger Woods chipping golf balls to it's like, okay, now let's jump into the Dallas Cowboys.
I know. I feel like that politician that just got kicked out of office for lying so much, because people are like, what? No, huh? Yeah. And it was right after college football. And I had just had a story done on me on CBS, because there were a lot of stories that were done on me when I played from networks in college. And I had 2 offers. I had an offer to go to Green Bay, Wisconsin, and actually go to training camp with the Packers for a week. And they said, we might get you in an exhibition game. And then I got the call, the Dallas Cowboys want you to come down and try out. And at that time, the Packers were the worst team in football. They just drafted Don Majkowski. I think they were 1-14 or 15. They were horrible. And I thought, oh, it's Dallas. It's the Cowboys. I gotta go. And I went down there, and it was a mistake to take that one because they were like by the books. They're like, here, run your 40-yard dash.
Oh.
Here, do the thing where they have you jump against the wall for your vertical like that. And they're like, all right, well, we're sorry you didn't meet the requirements of that. And I'm like, well, why the bleep did you bring me down here, for a one-day thing? So it was fun. There were a lot of athletes there that when I ran, they just all stopped and watched and applauded, which was kind of surreal and just bizarre that all those athletes trying to do the same thing would turn and do that to me. And again, all that video is on YouTube. You can Google Dave Stevens Cowboy tryout and all that kind of stuff. So, but obviously I would have rather gone to the Packers in my hindsight, but I've been so lucky to part of the charities that I work with. I played with the Wounded Warrior football team, which is an amputee football team. And I'm playing at Super Bowls with Snoop Dogg and Vince Young and Ricky Williams and all these guys that I'm out now throwing passes to and playing defense. And I sacked Michael Vick in a flag football game. He retired the next day because when a legless guy sacks you, it's time to walk away from the game. I sacked Drew Bledsoe at a game in Boston, playing flag football. So, I'm so lucky that even at my age at 59, I'm still doing physical, fun things that, I play in a charity softball game in Texas with, a lot of big stars that I get to hang with. So, I pinch myself. It's so surreal that, everybody has been so good to me in life. There's been the naysayers. There's been I've got struggles of the prejudices and things that happen in sports that are also not so glamorous.
The Barry Bonds part. It's real though.
I had a guy in high school, I'm coming up to bat. The bases are loaded. It's a playoff. If we win, we go to the playoffs. And this big, huge guy, 400 pounds, wearing a wife beater T-shirt with yellow armpit stains, like everything's so vivid. He starts screaming, "This is cheap baseball. He's a freak. He shouldn't be allowed to play. This is a gimmick. Get him out of there. He should be banned." And I'm hearing this like for the first time from an adult, and you're hearing these horrible things coming out of a human being. And I watch all the parents scooting away from him on the bleachers. And I looked at my coach and I'm like, I was shaking. I was visibly shaking. And he's like, get up there and do what you're supposed to do. So I got in there, and he's still just jawing away. And I get into the batter's box. And again, for you pitchers out there, ball one low, as usual, in the dirt. But that second one was right eye level at my eyes, where I like them. And there was something in me that just said, no, not this time. And I crushed that ball. It went to the wall. All three runners came around to score. I got to first base. I spun around and I screamed, that's what I'm here for, you bleep, 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 bleep. Like all these 4-letter words that a high school kid should not be repeating. My coach comes running across the field. I think he's going to pick me up and carry me off because we have the lead, right? He's like, get your butt in the dugout. I'm like, what? He goes, get your butt in the dugout. But he goes, get in the dugout. So I go in, he puts in a pinch runner, and he goes, do you know why I took you out of the game? And I'm like, no. And he's like, when you got to first, you became that guy. You became that bully. Because when we're picked on, we always immediately look for the weakest person to pick on to feel better or whatever. So instead of me just taking it in and enjoying that moment, I turned and said things worse than he had said to me. And so the next words out of my coach's mouth were, always walk the talk, always act like you've been there. It's your job to do what you did. Let everybody else, celebrate and cheer. And to this day, if you saw I get a fumble recovery, I do that. I just be like, yeah, okay, cool, And so I to this day, I've always thought, I've lived those words. I always walk the talk. I show my example. I let people realize that they can take that out of disability. That, again, I have a brain. I've had an impact in lives. And I think so many times we get hung up that you're missing an arm, you're missing a leg, you might not see out of one eye, you might have a heart condition. Why can't you be a detective? Why couldn't you be in the Army or in the military and use your mind to build our military weapons? Why would you have to carry a backpack at a boot camp for 6 weeks or do something? We don't utilize the disabled world and community as much as we can. We are the biggest minority in the world, and we have the smallest voice. And there are so many seen and unseen disabilities, and PTSD helps us join that club. We don't want you to join our club, but anybody at any moment can be in an accident. You could have a stroke. You could become disabled. I can't become Hispanic. I can't become Chinese. I can't become, Polish. You're born that way. But you can become disabled at any moment. You can join our club. And that's why we don't get days of protests. We don't have all these things where people are battling for us right now. And again, I don't want to go politics, but much of our world could lose a lot of what we need. Some of these things that the hiring initiatives and the benefits and things like that. And I hope these two sides get together and fix it, because our veterans need it and our disabled community needs it even more. If we lose and have those setbacks, what are we going to do for the rest of our lives? We're not going to get those opportunities. And so I try, even at my age, to go out, put on these sports camps, appear, speak at functions, showcase when I'm at the Super Bowl or the World Series doing interviews that, look at us, look what we can do. And I hope that there are going to go others that will fill my non-shoes.
I freaking love you, man. You lead by example, and with ability, not disability. You lead with all of your ability. And, it's just, the things that you said about, anyone could join our club at any moment, man. I mean,
You almost did. I mean, you could have been a lot worse.
at any moment. But I mean, you are meant to be doing what you're doing with your speaking and touching people's lives, because you do it in such a manner, such a way that is so impactful, but is so real and touching. It's not fake. The one thing you did say too about how you'll see these games, the football, where they'll run and let them, and that's great. That's great. Give that child that moment, but there's more to it than just that. With any disability, there's more that comes to it. But with yours, there wasn't any mental issues or psychological issues or something like that. It was physical, but the only limitations were the ones that other people put on you, and you blew that away.
Yeah, and it's like that. sports has been, everyone thinks that sports is my biggest accomplishment, but life is my biggest accomplishment.
Coming back from that hot tub, from that jacuzzi.
Yeah, and raising 3 sons. My oldest just graduated yesterday, and to, again, people don't realize how tough it is as a parent with a disability to try to give that child a normal life, to try to, think about what am I doing when I'm parenting at home, like trying to get the kids in and out of the cribs and up and down stairs and in and out of cars and car seats, me pushing a stroller, all those kind of things with my sons. And I am proud because I raised 3 of the coolest, best looking gentlemen you'll ever find that are respectful to women and have never been in trouble and have fun and love sports. They all played baseball. My middle son was a great catcher, one of the best in the state. Now my oldest son wants to be GM of a baseball team one day. And it's like, my dreams as a kid without legs were to play pro ball and to be on TV. How am I supposed to tell my son that you can't shoot for your dreams? So it's like, it's all those kind of things that, as we advance in age too, there's no playbook. If you see the video of me hopping around and jumping around, that was great, but I'm breaking down. And this old fat legless body, I got to jump on stools now from in my kitchen and hop from stools to stool to cook and do those kind of things. Doing laundry is not an easy thing because it's a top loader and I've got hot dog tongs and I reach in and get the clothes out to put it in the dryer. And, all the things that I do is driving and traveling, by myself is not easy when you're in a wheelchair and you're dealing with all your luggage and everything. And getting on shuttles at airports. No shuttle at an airport is wheelchair accessible for rental cars. Like, why don't you fix that? I could stand on a soapbox all day, talk about, all these issues, but I try to pick and choose my battles where I can make an impact, make a difference. And to your point, just kind of lead by example. And they can see that once they get past the no leg part, that I make fun of myself. I try to get that elephant out of the room as quickly as possible because it is weird. You're not used to seeing a guy walking around without legs or being on a skateboard. I was at the NFL draft a couple of weeks ago. The airport was so empty in Wisconsin. I skateboarded through the airport. Like, it had this huge ramp. And I pulled up by a pilot. I'm like, am I going to be okay? Is security going to bust me? And he goes, security was watching. They were laughing. So, it's all these things that you have to have content for social media. And I'm constantly trying to reinvent things and working for organizations like the Abilities Expo, which is a trade show that showcases all of the great technology and advances in, disabled world with wheelchairs and all kinds of stuff. And I'm the TV host. I go and I do stories at that, and I do fun things on the covering the event each city, and they're paying me to fly into Chicago and New York and LA to do that. And I'm like, how cool is it to have a person with a disability be that spokesperson and do that? And so I try to do fun things. Last week we were packing up in New York, and I jumped in one of the wheelchair boxes and had 2 of the guys go along, and they're like, hey, we're off to Chicago. It's been a great expo. What's in here? And they dump it over, and I'm like, hey guys, I'm trying to save money on fare. And I popped out of the box and did my thing. And so some people may not get my humor, but if you can't laugh at yourself, you shouldn't make fun of others. And I constantly am self-deprecating humor. I've done Las Vegas stand-up or sit down, where, again, that was the biggest challenge of my life, doing 20 minutes of comedy.
Oh my God.
And I would do it again, but it was the hardest thing I've ever had to do in my life. First, writing all my material and then memorizing it, which I cheated a little bit. I came out on my skateboard and I had one-liners on the bottom of my skateboard and I turned it up. But that's on YouTube if you ever want to see 15, 20 minutes of humor. And it was self-deprecating. You come out, you're like, yeah, ladies, yeah, I know what you're thinking, and yeah, it does drag the ground when I walk, and you broke that ice in the room where they're not sure they should laugh with you or at you.
You set the tone,
and you just go with it. And I just kind of like, hey, and I'm, and I learned a lot from it. But I had other comedians watching. They're like, wow, if you really worked at that, you could do that, but it was just fun,
People must, obviously we freaking love you and we're happy for you. But when you look at, as an athlete, I played my whole life, played hockey and all that. And, you try to be better than the guy next to you. And to see just the raw talent that you have without having legs, yeah, you're going to get the guys that are like, yeah. Then you get the guys that are like, yeah, asshole. And you got these comedians that are like, I busted my ass. This is my career. And here this guy literally hops into it and he's a hit. It's just you. It's the person, man.
It was so fun. But you'll get those guys, because I found out years later, because my two coaches they became, once my parents died and I fixed my life and righted my track. When I go back to Arizona, I stay at my wrestling coach's house and I would visit my baseball coach. My baseball coach died last year at age 92.
Oh.
And that was a tough loss for me, because he still had everything. I just had lunch with him a couple months prior, but the coaches told me years later, after we were sitting around talking, and they said, you don't understand what it was like to tell a parent. And when those parents would come to those coaches and say, how did a kid without legs beat out my kid in sports? And they had to tell him, your kid sucks. Your kid sucks so bad, a guy without legs is better than your son. So, and that happened. Those were the conversations that
the Olympic team, you were 13 out of 28. I mean, that's insane. I mean, it's just, we're obviously we come out here every 6 weeks, and obviously, I want you back and again and again. There's so much other stuff that we're going to discuss too, but you've got a lot of charities that you do. Please, you got the time here, man. Plug them.
Well, thanks. The charities, I work a lot in the disabled community. So one, I'm on Easter Seals, Central Region, Capital Region in Connecticut, which is like the big Connecticut region. I'm on the board. I teach veterans television and media up in Norwich at Veterans Rally Point every Tuesday, teaching them podcasting and how to, do television and media and shoot things with your cell phones. Because I do everything. If you watch my stuff on social media, it looks like it's television, but it's all done edited on my cell phone. So you kids that think everything has to be on a laptop, you're screwed. I'm a part of Runway of Dreams, which is adaptive clothing for those in the disabled world. So if you've had a stroke and you can't button your shirt, there's Velcro or snaps that you can use. Or if you have a catheter or something in your shorts, there's all kinds of cool different things that people aren't understanding, that we have money and we would like to spend that money. So people that have disabilities do buy things and do use things. So that's another great organization. And then I just joined the Denise DeCenzo Foundation. She's a local broadcaster here that was in television for over 30 years that tragically passed away. And I'm helping that organization. They do a lot of great initiatives for charities in the disabled world. And then Disability Dream and Do, which are the baseball camps that we put on for baseball for kids with disabilities. Dave Clark was the only pitcher ever to pitch on crutches. He pitched in the minor leagues, had polio. So his story was in the early 70s, way before my time. But it's another one of those baseball stories that it's true. He pitched on crutches in the minor leagues.
Yeah, because they always say about Jim Abbott.
Yeah, there's Jim Abbott, who pitched with one arm. But we put on these baseball camps. We work with the minor league teams. They come out and play with the kids we do drills and things and let them get that experience and just let them be normal kids playing baseball for one day. And those are great. I really enjoy that. And, hopefully, COVID kind of killed my speaking, but I'm trying to rejuvenate that and get that back going out there. I love to talk to kids and corporations and things like that. And you can go to my website, which is easy. It's thedavestevens.com. Or you can Google Dave Stevens, no legs, Dave Stevens legless, Dave Stevens, Darryl Strawberry, like all this BS that we've talked about that can't even be possible.
It's there.
We didn't even talk about ESPN and those years with Berman and those guys. And like we could, this is going to be part 6.
Well, you said it.
We didn't talk about love life. We didn't talk about all these kind of things.
Well, that's why there's going to be a part 1 here, and there's going to be a part 6.
But I'm so glad you let me tell my story, because again, what Coach went through with his son, what you've gone through with the people that are in your lives, with all these people, we do need more outreach. We do need the people to know that there are people that do care and that are willing to give those second chances. I wouldn't be where I am if I didn't get those second and third chances. And again, sitting there coked out of my brain at 3:00 in the morning was a cry for help. It couldn't have gone much worse. And I always say to people, they like, well, life can't get much worse. It can. And if you're going to bottom out, you need those people that are going to be standing by you when you start to get back up.
That is so true. That's so true. Dave, I can't thank you isn't even close to, how I feel right now. I mean, you really touched me. I mean, just
Legally.
the legally and at a distance, that damn thing drags on the ground, but I mean, the way, just your compassion and your authenticity and your love. And my dad passed away from ALS. And he said, son, these are the cards I was dealt. And he faced it just like you. But
those are the heroes. That's why I
yeah.
say I have it way worse off. I don't have it way worse off than like your father had a death sentence. There are people out there with death sentences. There are people out there that can't talk, can't move. I can do whatever I can, and I'm going to do it until they invent a Roomba that can hold my ass so I can just hover around on somebody can use a joystick and move me around.
Oh, man. Well, Dave, thank you so much for this. And this is part 1 of at least part 6 that'll be in the future. So again, please check out Dave Stevens and all of the amazing things he's done. And check us out at My Fight Our War on YouTube, Instagram, all the social media. And until then, man, just remember, keep fighting a good fight.